So good evening and good morning. We'll start with the Friday study circle. And just taking one more minute, although the mantra was very meditative, just taking another minute to gather ourselves, invoke grace, and be fully present here before we begin the session. Thank you. Invoking Mother's presence and grace before we, while we look at the passages of the Sunlit path, passages from the Mother. And last time we had done two passages, bad impulses and thoughts, and the psychic mirror. So this week we have to take offer the wrong movements. Again, we'll be shedding more light on what we had studied last time. So if anybody is willing, they can read this passage for us.
Yeah, Taru, I'll read. Offer the wrong moments, right?
Yes, Adhari, thank you.
Yeah. Instead of offer the wrong moments, instead of driving a wrong moment underground, it is to be offered. It is to place the thing, the moment itself, to project it into the light. Generally, it wriggles and refuses, but Mother laughs. That is the only way. That is why this consciousness is so precious. Well, what brings about the suppression is the idea of good and bad, a kind of contempt or shame for what is considered bad, and you do like this gesture of repulsion. You do not want to see it. You do not want it to be there. It must. The very first thing to realize is that it is the weakness of our consciousness that makes this division, and that there is a consciousness, now I am sure of it, in which that does not exist, in which what we call evil is as much necessary as what we call good, and that if we can project our sensation or our activity or our perception into that light, that will bring the cure. Instead of suppressing or rejecting it as something to be destroyed, it cannot be destroyed. It has to be projected into the light. And because of this, I have heard for several days a very interesting experience. Instead of seeking to throw away far from oneself certain things which one does not accept and which produce an imbalance in the being, instead of doing that, to accept them, take them as part of oneself, and Mother opens her hands, offer them up. They do not want to be offered, but there is a way of compelling them. The resistance is diminished in the proportion as we can diminish in us our sense of disapprobation. If we can replace this sense of disapprobation by a higher understanding, then we succeed. It is much more easy. I believe it is that all of the moments that drag you down must be put in contact with a higher understanding. Thank you. Beautiful passage as usual.
Thank you, Sadhguru. So as we had discussed last week, it's a natural tendency for us to not admit or hide even from ourselves a lot of what we feel, think, believe, the movements that come. And yet, Mother has said again and again that the only way is to bring them to light. We had shared several examples in which, Mother had gone to a disciple's room and he had, hidden his things. So she had said, only if you, bring out the dark, the ugly, just paraphrasing, is then I can cure it, then I can clean, cleanse it. Then then it can leave you maybe, or as she says, it can never be left. But yeah. So, if there are any reflections, requesting us to unmute and share. Otherwise, we'll go through it line. So, Mother says, instead of driving underground a wrong movement, it is to be offered. Sometimes I think one can wonder what offering is. And it could, I don't know, mean different things to different people, but it just means, how, say, if you do something and you share it, say, with a friend, or just you realize that, oh my God, I just did that, or I just thought this. So one just offers it to the Mother, to the divine, that, hey, this thought just came to me, and, I don't want this in my being, or I'm thinking this, or I'm feeling feverish, or I'm desiring this. And I don't know whether it's coming from the right place. So I'm offering it to you. If you feel it's okay, then I'm just giving it to you. Anything that one wants, feels, thinks, desires, that can be offered if one wants to be, I don't know, a little bit more sure that what if it's coming from the wrong center? So let me offer it. There'll be more light on it. And one feels more stronger when one is moving forward like that. So it is to place the thing, the movement itself, to project it into the light. Generally, it wriggles and refuses. When I see something in me which I am not proud of, or which I'm wondering where it came from, there is this thing that, okay, I'll just, what if it came? Just let it be, moving on, which works at times. It feels it works, but again and again, it keeps resurfacing, or it just keeps, it's present in you.
There is one image on this wriggling that is coming to me, which is, these creepy crawly creatures. If we have seen, they are very happy in dampness and darkness. But if we put them in light, they actually, it exactly what Mother says, that it wriggles and refuses. So actually, they like tadap, जिसे कहते हैं ना. So they actually do that kind of movement, and after that, sometime they are gone. Like they can't survive that light because it's just too much. Yeah. So that is why I think endurance here will also be helpful, because Mother says develop endurance. So when one has offered that thing to the light, or put it at the feet of the Mother, then as you were sharing that, I don't have anything to do with it. It is there. I see that, but I'm not indulging in it. I don't want to indulge in it, but it is there. It's not left me. So you put it into the light, and then it wriggles, because it actually makes us physically uncomfortable, for the patterns which are stronger, and we have to go through that. And once I was sharing, then one can go through that by breathing through it. or by just saying mama, 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 and that thing passes through us. Yeah. So it's very symbolic how the creatures of the dark, they can't survive the light, even in physical manifestation. And they're all creepy, crawly, slimy, and many fantastical movies like Harry Potter or other movies, they also represent like slimy, sluggish, crawly, एक बार चिपक गया तो चिपक ही गया, उस type का, whenever they are dark, dingy creatures, and they are like, oh my god, keep the light away from me, always they are like that. Yeah.
I had read that book, Life Beyond Death by Swami Abhedananda. It's considered one of the first books which talk about death and afterlife and soul. In that too, they had talked about, how there are people who are mediums, how, they would call, they would be, I don't know how you pronounce it, scenes and all, and they would invite the soul of the departed and have you speak to them. So in that, he had mentioned that there's one thing about it, that it's always taking place in the dark, right? Like every time there is any such meeting, if there is any calling, if there's any mediumship, this never done in light. If it's done during the day, you are supposed to put dark curtains. So he said that that in itself is indicative that, it's not the light beings who come. It's these vital bodies, who always know what's going on in your mind. And then they read you and they answer and you feel, oh, this is my person. And I don't know, then they use you for whatever they want to see. So I think this darkness factor, and if we think of that, so much of our activity which we desire, say discotheques, bars, and all, again, there's the darkness element, right? Like you were talking about Harry Potter, the forbidden forest, one should never venture them at night. So, although these are supposed to be books and fairy tales, there is something about darkness which allows certain things to live, which light won't allow, right? Which they would not be, it's not that light is not allowing, they just cannot bear the light. And I think so is our thought patterns, our tendencies. Like if we actually sit with one of them, right? Like when Thai says that if you look at one thing with great awareness, right? It's like you're looking at everything. So if we put light on it, anger, fear, a tendency, suddenly, that power that it held on you, it just becomes really loose. It doesn't go, but it becomes really loose. So that too is indicative that not just darkness and light, but my own mind, right? Like if it's hiding from me. Because I don't know, personally also, if there's something that I'm sometimes thinking or kind of feeling challenged by, if I'm trying to look at it, I feel some veils trying to cover, and as if there's a dullness in the brain. So I think that dullness too would be equivalent to darkness, because I'm then not able to put light on it. But the more it can be offered, then slowly I think the process becomes easier.
And one thing where mother also, we have read that earlier in some session, that mother says that it hurts a little when we are wanting to let go of some old pattern, tendency, thought pattern, feeling pattern, something in our life which now has lived enough and now we don't want it anymore. So even when there is a want that yes, I don't want it in my life anymore, even then when it will leave us, it'll hurt, and as if like it has become part of my flesh, and as if a piece of flesh is being taken away. So that again comes the aspect of enduring, to endure that pain of it leaving us, not to say that, oh, because it is paining, I would not go through the whole process, because it just hurts too little. And that's why actually what you were sharing, that's why many of us for a long time avoid looking at our shadows and darkness and everything, because it hurts. It hurts to see that, oh my God, everything that I thought evil is in me. It hurts in the beginning. But slowly one begins to enjoy the adventurous process. Yeah. And Sri Aurobindo says that it pains you because you identify with the limitation which is leaving you. You don't identify with the liberation which is coming. How beautiful is that? So he says that if you want to allow the process smoothly, one must begin to identify with that liberation which comes, the sense of liberated self. Yes, that's me, and not this limitation which now I am identifying with and saying that, oh my God, it hurts a little, or maybe more. अरे क्या देखना जरूरी है क्या? Because I am identifying with that littleness which is now trying to leave. Yeah. And again, jealousy or all these kind of things which we consider negative, and when we look at jealousy, and it hurts again to see that, oh, I was jealous, I never thought I would be jealous, but I am jealous. And when I'm wanting to let go, or when it's the pattern is arising, and again it's paining me when I see jealousy in me, then if I just become the witness, if we can, and identify myself as the witness, and that as an outsider, that's what Sri Aurobindo says, that all these are outsiders, and that is why they don't make us comfortable. They give us discomfort because they are outsiders. जैसे दाल में कुछ काला आके पड़ गया. Yeah.
Yeah, any reflections on it? So generally, okay, so yes.
In my going through that, in my case, I've always felt that somehow I've looked at divine like all the merry mortals, and I was afraid that if I tell God that I'm jealous, or I'm having a problem, or I'm if I show God that I have these negative elements in me, I used to think that maybe he will become judgmental, which he will never. Which mother will never do that. But I guess growing up, sharing secrets with people, and then being pointed at those things, as a for many, as a kid, I thought it's bad. Oh God, my God, mother will think, "Oh, how can you be a disciple when you have all these negative things in you?" And I would suppress them. It's I'm not suppressing it at all anymore. I'm being more open. Um, but and also another thing is my own acceptance that even within me, my ego becomes a barrier to to like between me and mother. Also, my ego sometimes becomes a barrier that how could you show your weaknesses? Like, why should I not show my weaknesses? It's the mother. Not just the mother, like even to the society, what will happen? My thought process is going in a way that, okay, let's say tomorrow I tell someone that this is an issue, and while I'm sharing, at the most they'll do is make fun of me, and right now it doesn't matter at all. So that is there. And also another point I wanted to reflect on is about those bad habits, like Monica mom was saying, the bad habits, when they when I want to leave them, and I am practicing something good, that'll assist me, that'll help me at leaving them. I find that even during the practice also, I have a thought that if I practice too well, if I practice it um, every day, I may become stronger and I may get rid of those bad habits, and then I'll lose the excitement of doing the bad, going on with the bad habits. And again, that also becomes a barrier because I'm missing the habit. Although I don't like it, I'm still miss. It's like being in a bad relationship and not being able to come out of it, or but also not being able to live in it. Like live without it. So, um, like it's a continuous back and forth in the head, but so far it hasn't been uh, too hard to kind of get rid of it, or to you know get get unattached to these things. Okay.
Thank you. One thing which all of us may have observed, that when we are very afraid of people judging us, we are doing the same thing to people. Like, for example, if somebody said that, shared a secret with me, which was like a negative, evil, whatever secret, that look, don't tell anyone, but I have done this. And although I listened to their secret, but I developed a category in my head that look, he has bad fellow, and then there are good fellows. And that is the one of the reasons why when I would share something like that with somebody, I would have the fear of judgment because I am doing the same. And what you were sharing is a beautiful step ahead, because as we drop our own judgments about others living around us, and the more we begin to become conscious of us, that see, everything is in me, so why to make categories? Who is a sinner and who is a saint? Sinner is a saint and saint is a sinner. So then it becomes what you were sharing, that now I'm trying to become comfortable with it. That so it naturally will reflect in relationships also, where we become comfortable with others also as they are right now, not trying to make categories, because it's like a side product, that how I treat myself is how I treat others, how I treat others is how I treat myself. On the surface it may look that नहीं नहीं देख, वो अपने लिए तो बहुत gentle है लेकिन दूसरों पे बहुत कड़क है. No, but I think that's just an appearance. That's just an appearance. And the second thing what you were sharing is, yeah, I think we have in another way talked about that if I'm trying to leave a bad thing and I'm used to that excitement, usually all these things have excitement, and that is why we become addicted. They give us a high. So, and even if you were right, that even if abusive relationships, it's a bad relationship, it gives me a certain intensity in life. And that is what I miss when I'm not with that person. Although I see that it's not helping me, but it's a intensity. It may be a very entangled intensity, but I miss it. Now, we won't be able to let go of these things if we don't have anything other intense calling us. That is what we have been sharing again and again, that in de-addiction process, we rehabilitate. We just don't de-addict, because just de-addiction not possible. Right? That person is in front of me. I have mind which can think of that person like that, and always in my mind, in my loop, I can go around all my fantasies about that person. Now, no matter how entangled, right? But that is why I have to give myself such an intensity that bad taste I slowly drop. Otherwise, it's a lost battle that would not leave me. Because we are all craving for that intensity. It's our birthright. Not excitement, that intensity. And excitement again is a bad taste. When we say that, are you happy? If a person is saying, yeah, I'm happy, you would say, झूठ बोल रहा है, yeah, I am happy, अब सच बोल रहा है. So we confuse happiness with, or ananda, in other words, or joy, in other words, we confuse it with excitement. And when we come to this spiritual path, we realize that that's the bad taste that we have to drop. The more excitement I want in my life means that how dull and bogus my life is. Titillation, of the senses. Like, okay, यहाँ पे shoot हो रहा है, वहाँ पे shoot हो रहा है, वहाँ पे, virtual reality करना है, यहाँ से इधर jump करना है. So that I only feel compelled to do when I have such a lack in my life, which I can't stand. So first is to become comfortable with that lack, that emptiness. That's what we had, been sharing, to be our best friend, to become very comfortable with that lack. And then that lack transmutes into something else. Then the more we begin to become comfortable. So these are all bad tastes that we have to leave. The excitement and intensity of such kind of a sort which doesn't uplift but takes us down. And then we just are always wanting more. Otherwise, we are not happy without it. While if we give ourselves a different intensity, that is a fulfilling intensity. Like if you really have touched a beautiful space in your being in a meditation, sitting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you will see that it's like a fragrance which stays with you throughout the day. If it has been a good experience there, sitting still or whatever. So, but that thing, the other bad taste, that the moment it is over, you want it again. You want some rest, first of all, because it drains your energy, right? All these things drain our energy, the bad tastes. Like if you go for a movie 3 hours, very intense, whatever, yeah, then you, after that, you want to rest. While the different kind of a high, which is our birthright, which is a connect with our true self, that is not draining in nature, that is empowering in nature. तो अगर मैं सुबह 10 मिनट भी बैठी हूँ और अच्छे से ध्यान लगा है, I will see that, oh, I am not getting tired that easily. I can do more, and I can be more. I feel rested inside. I don't want to rest, I feel rested inside. Of course, the body may want rest again and again, takes time. But spiritually, mentally, emotionally, you feel very content. So I think we have to just keep observing these things within us, and then we will be guided to the right kind of a high that we need in our life.
Thank you.
In Ramayana, I remember, a long time back when I had read a part of it, this one thing stuck with me. I'd shared it before, that somebody had asked a guru that, when I'm in the forest, all kind of people come, I come across all kind of people, but they all appear to be good. But later, sometime I come to know that was a asur, that was a negative energy, or that was, a positive. To theek hai. I mean, they're always dressed in the forms of, say, sadhus and all. How do I know the good from the bad? So the guru said, you would never know while they are there. If they are pretending to be positive, you would not know when you are in their presence. But as soon as they leave, how you are feeling, you'll know whether that was a good soul or, like a asuric shakti, for example. Not a good soul, wrong words, but so I think that's very helpful, right? That's exactly what you were sharing, that I must be aware enough to see that, okay, that looked fascinating. I indulged in that. Now it's over. How does it feel, right? What do I feel? And that would help me next time in deciding whether I want to do it. Maybe I need 10 times, 20 times, but if every time I feel something is not right, right? That's a very strong indicator, but one has to be present to the whole experience, beginning, end, after end, to see what was it, so that one can choose what one wants to expose oneself to, indulge in, experience the next thing.
It's like having to do with the quietness of mind, to me, especially like um, in order to realize or in order to see that if a person's presence gives me good or negative vibrations, I need to be in peace with myself. Like I imagine it like this, man. Like ever since there's this topic of mindfulness and being quiet and being with oneself, I've noticed that, right? I know what I want inside my head is an open sky, but when I look at the open sky, there's nothing in my head. It's just I'm looking at the open sky and I'm able to reflect on myself, on my actions, on how I feel, how everything about myself only. There is no other being. But right now it is downtown traffic inside the head. So I'm clearing the traffic so I can look at the sky. But I think that will help me in my case that to see a person. I don't know how many people have watched Shaktiman growing up. I watched Shaktiman growing up. One of those there was a villain, and one time, no, Shaktiman just shakes his hand, and immediately he gets to know that that's a bad person. That villain was in a avatar of a god or something. I don't remember. And he just shakes his hand and immediately. And मैं टीवी देख रहा था, like, wow, इसको पकड़ लिया, and I was so happy. And I used to think, oh, that's how it's gonna work. I even tried it with some of my friends after that. I used to shake my hand. He's a bad guy, but it didn't work out. But it isn't that simple. Yeah, it is. It takes a lot of effort for people like me, especially.
I think we must all put that effort. It's a very worthwhile effort. Not only people like you, we are all people like each other. And even those people, if we see as inspirational, we don't realize how much of effort they have put, really. So it's a really worthwhile effort, and we keep putting effort all everywhere. We keep putting effort. तो भैया यहीं डाल लो, है ना? जो पता लग रहा है, जो हेल्पफुल है, वहां डाल लो, क्योंकि हर उल्टी पुल्टी जगह तो डालते ही हैं, टेंडेंसी है एफर्ट डालने की। तो फिर अगर डालना ही है तो फिर इधर डालो। जैसे मदर कहती हैं कि अगर सोचना ही है तो अच्छा सोचो, क्योंकि सोचना तुम छोड़ नहीं सकते। Yeah.
And so taking it forward, generally it wriggles and refuses. But that is the only way. That is why this consciousness is so precious. When right now, when we were talking about it being difficult, like it appears difficult because we are not used to being present, right? But once, if we are just a bit honest, why am I feeling drained? Or why is it feeling heavy? मतलब it's just कि feel कर रहे हो कि हो क्या रहा है। तो आदत नहीं है अपने साथ बैठने की या अपने को देखने की, तो वहां पे वो आदत माइट बी डिफिकल्ट, पर जो प्रोसेस है कि आई हैव अ कॉन्शियसनेस, इट फील्स, इट नोज कि अच्छा हुआ बुरा हुआ, अच्छा था बुरा था, अच्छा लग रहा है खराब लग रहा है। इवन अ चाइल्ड नोज, राइट? एंड दैट्स इट, दैट्स व्हाई दिस कॉन्शियसनेस इज सो प्रेशियस, बिकॉज इट टेल्स यू। बट अगर मैं ही कॉन्शियसनेस के लिए कॉन्शियस ही नहीं हूँ, फिर obviously it feels difficult, but it's again a habit, right? And habits I form, and I can form new habits. That's the good news. So, well, what brings about the suppression is the idea of good and bad, a kind of contempt or shame for what is considered bad, and you do like this, you do not want to see it, you do not want it to be there. So if I don't like something or if I consider it bad, instead of doing something about it, that how do I not have this bad, or how do I stop it from, using me or making me dance on its tune, I just try to suppress it because I feel the shame. I have images of good and bad. But again, it depends on how, again, we are always about, what is my aim, right? Is my aim to seek more purity? Is my aim to seek more light? Or is my aim to just be what I am and just have a good image and just continue with the way I have always been? Because if I actually have an idea of good or bad, I would want to be more good, right? I would genuinely want more light than more dark. And then shame, no shame, I have to, in my honesty, with my sincerity, there is no other way. It becomes a choicelessness. But till I don't want to see it, I don't want to be there, so I try to suppress it. I feel repulsed by it, and that increases its presence in my being.
I think here it's good to also talk about when we begin to become aware of, oh, that there is a ego and we all have to dissolve our ego, get rid of the ego. Many a times it happens in us, phases come that we feel disgusted by the ego, and as if we begin a fight with it. That when will this ego go away? Why is it not dissolving? Oh, is it still there? So it's like, it's like a already lost battle again, because how can we fight against something which is actually not existing? So the what you were sharing, the more I fight it, the more I give its presence, and the more it becomes easy for me. Like, okay, there is a spider somewhere in this room, and it is there, and it's allowed to be. You just like are okay, or whether you notice it, not notice it, it's just roaming around, and you're easy with it, and there we maybe have a chance towards progressing. Otherwise, this fighting with the more we fight with our egos or our personalities, the more stronger form, as if they, and again going back to those fantastical stories, that we give it more strength. And same, like if somebody is throwing anger at us, the more we fight back, it's like his anger also gains strength. But if we choose to be something different, it slips over himself also, and it may slip over us both at once. And this also, the sense of repulsion that mother was saying, that you as if I think this is also because it gives me a sense of self, that we are always living in likes and dislikes. Who am I? I am the one who likes this, but who doesn't like this. I hate it. And when we are saying, if you would have observed, when we are saying anything, that, oh, I love it, or oh, I hate that, it gives us a sense of self, that who am I? I am the one who likes this and who doesn't like that. And we like to preserve these boundaries. So that's what mother is sharing, that you like that sense of repulsion. Yeah.
Even when they are little children, or not even little, like, whenever we see somebody getting irritated or annoyed or teased by someone, we very cleverly tell them, "Arey tu ho hi mat na, wo teko annoy kare tu mat ho." Then he will stop. Now, But we don't hear that ourselves, right? Like that's, I think, very important. And the child also has a very difficult time understanding because kaise na ho. Matlab this thing I think takes a lot of inculcation. Ke the day I stop, just one, two, three more times a person would try, and then he'll say, "Arey, nothing is there, right? No repulsion, no agitation, no running away, no punching, no wrestling. Okay, why are you doing this to me?" And when a child is unable to understand, we find that कि अरे तेको समझ क्यों नहीं आ रहा, right? और मुझे चाहे अभी तक समझ ना आया हो, but it's very simple. I mean, reasoning wise, it's simple, but yes, because ऐसे कैसे जाने दें वाले attitude से we ourselves prolong it and prolong it. So moving on, the first thing, the very first thing to realize is that it is the weakness of a consciousness that makes this division, and that there is a consciousness in which that does not exist, in which what we call evil is as much necessary as what we call good. And if we can project our sensation or our activity or our perception into that light, that will bring the cure. So I'll read that again. The very first thing to realize is that it is the weakness of our consciousness that makes this division. So we're talking about, right, wrong, good, bad. So this is the weakness of my consciousness that's making this division. And that there is a consciousness in which that does not exist. This distinction does not exist, in which what we call evil is as much necessary as what we call good. And that if we can project our sensation or our activity or our perception into that light, that will bring the cure. Sensation, activity, or perception. That will bring the cure. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I have nothing really to add on to this. We had covered the weakness, like how I am insincere and I say it's not visible. And to know that there is something beyond a light that is being talked about, that has all the solutions. And if I don't believe it, I would never be able to offer things, right? I will never be able to seek light if I do not believe in the strength of the light. And to know that, like we've been discussing this repeatedly about I don't know. I've been wrong so many times. So many times I feel this is right, this is good, this is bad. And over time, I've seen that it did not have really much to it. So this knowing that I don't know helps me. And that is why I would even seek that light which I know is the true light that will bring the cure about, again, I think only yesterday that Rumi's quote that, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoings and right doings, there's a field, I will meet you there. So, but first we'll have to get exhausted with this rights and wrongs, right? Boggled, कि जो right है वो wrong था, जो wrong था वो right है. Until when will I keep distinguishing between the rights and the wrong? So then when I'm ready to move beyond, is, it's being called as a disease, right? Like that weakness, because we're talking about the cure. Yeah, please, anything. Yes.
I think this is also very interesting, where mother says it cannot be destroyed. So when we talk about physics, we say energy cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed. And same for, like, say, our bodies. Whatever is, we see that, although we say that okay, the body was destroyed, in a matter of speaking I may say that, but the body changed form from what it was earlier. Now it became ash, or whatever part of soil. Then from soil it became something else, then it became a cloud. So it's, the circle goes on and on and on. So this also uh, would align with when we talk about that all these so-called disturbing emotions are actually, they have to be transformed. And they say that anger, for example, people who are very angry, most of the times anger is a form of distorted wisdom energy. That's what they say in Buddhism. So to see that, and we see in Savitri, that when she faces death, you know she is convinced that there is something behind that, garb of death, and it can't be this. So, and death then changes its form to light. So it's wherever, as if it feels that wherever I'm stuck, like I'm facing a black wall, if it's still a black wall for me, I have not gone deeper enough, because it will transmute itself, it will change itself. The more I go deeper into it, the more I understand it. So anger, ambition, pride, vanity, all these, it seems as if they're like distorted versions of something which is trying to express itself, but when it gets expressed, it becomes like evil, or something ugly. Yeah. Yes, Sardaji?
Yeah, Monica, you were mentioning about the anger. If a person is most of the time angry, then you were telling something. I missed it out. Can you please repeat
No,
it
I
again?
was just sharing it from Buddhism, that in Buddhism they say that anger is a form of distorted wisdom energy.
That means what, Monica?
It means like if you have sun,
Hmm.
and then if you have a curtain, and if that curtain is like a very phata purana, bekar raddi curtain, that the light that comes would not be a beautiful reflection that would come. But if it's a very delicate, beautifully designed curtain, the light that falls and then the reflection that is there is a
Okay.
beautiful reflection. So why am I angry? Because somewhere there is this energy in me which, if channelized properly, can proceed towards perfection and understanding. But when it gets channelized in a wrong way, at wrong places, in a wrong manner, then it's like a distortion of it. We see this with naughty children, and I like this example a lot. Children who are naughty, they have a very strong potential of becoming very dynamic individuals, because they have that energy of naughtiness. Some people who are children who are very dull and they're okay, very obedient, they of course have their own path. But then there are children who are like, they can become heroic, they can become warriors, but because their energies are channelized at wrong places, which is not in alignment with their swabhava, so they act it out as a naughtiness. But there are teachers, there have been examples where teachers who have really known children well, if they work with those children, then the same energy of naughtiness can go into something very dynamic, like a leader kind of an individuality, like a warrior like spirit, heroic, ready to just, okay, this is what is to be done, let me do it, no matter whether it's day or night. So like that, that it gets distorted. Yeah, whatever we don't like in ourselves, we can be sure, that's what I was reflecting on, that somewhere we are not understanding it correctly, somewhere we are not getting to the root of it, because the root is pure. When we say that there is only When we say divine is there, and this creation is made by divine is Anant, he's indefinite, he's infinite. How is it possible that in this part that I am looking, he is not there? He is there, but he is hiding. So it means I have to go deeper, 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 pierce through that coat. What Savitri does with death. She pierces through the garb of death because she knows, she's convinced that no, you are not what you seem to be.
Beautiful, Monica. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here afterwards, when we see angry people, this we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Everything has a meaning. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, Deepa.
Yeah, a lot of this makes sense today when y'all are discussing, because I always thought that it was post 40 that there has been so much changes in me, like things and activities that I used to enjoy before, whether it was going out for a movie, social drinking, singing, dancing with my friends, parties. It no longer interests me. It seems superficial, it seems meaningless. And I was not sure what is causing this transition. It also is like sometimes you've spent so many hours doing stuff that your soul doesn't demand, or rather your inner self is not demanding, and you spend so many hours doing that you end up feeling so exhausted, so drained after, let's say, an evening out with friends and stuff. So as to not understand why I'm feeling it now, and is this something that you go through just through age as you mature, or is it something that my inner self is looking for more meaning in life, more meaningful activities, and not something which gives me a temporary thrill, fun, and just trying to understand why it was happening and what will give me more a sense of fulfillment, rather, and that would be the correct word. Because like you said, it just didn't make sense that certain activities which earlier did not affect me as much now leave me drained. So is that something that I thought was age related, where I don't have the energy anymore to participate in these activities, or is it just something that I'm looking for something with more meaning?
No, there was something by the mother. I've once tried to find it. I could not again retrieve it from the vast literature, but maybe I'll try again. Where she says that there comes a time in your life, what you were exactly sharing, that nothing satisfies you, what you used to do earlier. And it's a beautiful phase of transition that we must welcome. And she says then we begin to feel a void which is so deep that no activity that you do satisfies. Earlier it used to be satisfying, but that's what you were sharing, that going out, partying with friends, watching a movie, it used to give us some satisfaction, right? But now it feels like, no, I don't want to be there. I'm okay with this void, but I don't want to be there. So she says that there comes a time that there is a deep void in the being which cannot, and then only you, as if the divine is knocking on the door, that okay, now come. So to have this communion with that loneliness, in loneliness only we find something true. That's why we don't have to push it away, we have to be friends with it, that emptiness, that loneliness, that abyssal, bottomless pit that we have within us. We have to become friends with that, and then something uh, slowly begins to guide us through. But first we have to really be so close friends with it that even if it stays for life, I'm really good with it, like that. So it gives you joy, being with that emptiness within it gives us joy. So I'll try to find that quote again. Yeah, maybe share it on the group later.
Yeah, so coming to the passage again. So instead of suppressing or rejecting it as something to be destroyed, it has to be projected into the light. It cannot be destroyed. And because of this, I have had for several days a very interesting experience. Instead of seeking to throw away far from oneself certain things which one does not accept and which produce an imbalance in the being, instead of doing that, to accept them, take them as part of oneself, Mother opens her hand and offer them up. So to get rid of something, we'll have to stop wanting to throw it away, but rather accept it and take them as part of oneself and offer them. You know how you used to talk about, maybe you could share that. That's a lovely example of that, that when you were going through something, and suddenly when you finally had that thing right, and you were able to take each emotion and hold it like a child in your arms, and then it just got released.
Yeah. What exactly? I can't recollect. Yeah, maybe you can share whatever is coming to you. I'm not able to
Yeah, so
recollect.
basically, you had shared that, when you had cancer, when you were like
Hmm.
kind of in that thing that, oh, what has happened, right?
Hmm.
Like that initial shock. So there were a lot of emotions that were coming to you.
Yes. Yes, yes. So yeah, the one thing which I recount is that the first time I looked at something in me, I was in balcony and suddenly I felt like maybe something like jealousy. And it was maybe perhaps a first conscious recognition of jealousy. So I became very disturbed, and I called up my friend who was a therapist here, and I asked, what do I do, what do I do? I see jealousy in me, something like that, because it was the first time, as if the microscope is turned within, and I'm begin to looking at things. And he said, nothing doing. Just hold it like a crying child. Like if a child comes crying to you and you are the mother, what do? Just the crying child comes, sits in your laps, and you're holding, not saying anything. And very soon he becomes okay, and rushes back to play again. So just let it be, keep holding jealousy, and as if the child has been abandoned for a long time and wants to seek that embrace. And that was it. Yeah. Mhm. I cannot say that the jealousy did not come up again. So, caution, disclaimer. Every enemy slain revives again. So, we have to be cautious of that. Yeah. But that was the first experience, conscious experience, I would say. Yeah.
So instead of seeking to throw away, which we are used to, which we think is the only way, right? Pushing things under the carpet, or just ignoring them, or just denying them, or just consciously trying to throw away that I don't have this or that. But instead of seeking to throw away far from oneself certain things which one does not accept, which produces an imbalance, instead of doing that, to accept them, take them as part of oneself and offer them up. They do not want to be offered, but there is a way of compelling them. The resistance is diminished in the proportion as we can diminish in us our sense of disapprobation. So that is like, a very strong, I think, denial or disapproving. So the more we go towards acceptance, we feel that is where, when you had shared that with me, there was this sense of peace that you had shared, that, suddenly with that fight that was going on, when you were able to hold it in your lap and more emotions after that. How suddenly it felt that they were, orphan children who were crying for attention, and suddenly they were all okay. So a lot in me does not want light, want to repel light, kind of hide from light, and do not want to be offered. But there is a way of compelling them. The resistance is diminished in the proportion as we can diminish in us our sense of disapprobation. If we can replace this sense of disapprobation by a higher understanding, then we succeed. It is much more easy. So I think if I consider myself to be just this limited person, right, then that fault or that sin or that feeling that I call as bad seems really big, right? I'm this much, and oh my God, this too lives in me. But if I am moving towards expansion, if I am seeking light, if I relate with that if he is infinite, I am infinite too. Then for me, it can be a small thing which can be held and it can be offered. See, this also, this also, this also. So I think a shift in how I perceive things need to happen so that I can change my views. Like if I'm disapproving something so strongly, how can I hold it, right? Like if say there's a snake, for example, right? That we just look at it and we want to run away or we don't want to look at it. If somebody says hold it, we'll be like, are you crazy, right? Because that fear, or I don't know, that there's something with certain things which we don't want to hold them. And yet there are so many people who are so comfortable holding, right? For them, it's not scary, it's not fear, it's not repulsive. There's a sense of acceptance. Could even be liking for the same thing, right? That yes, everything is allowed. So just taking the last two lines, and of course, please, any reflections. So I believe it is that all, all the movements that drag you down must be put in contact with the higher understanding. Yeah. Now, offering could feel or seem r- quite alien to me, right? Like, because it requires, okay, I first am conscious of it, I'm accepting it, I'm offering it. And yet, if we have experimented enough, if we have tried our ways enough, and if we feel they don't work, if we have reached that stage, maybe just as an experiment, we can consider accepting or owning or holding certain things and offering them. That how it's said कि मेरे करे तो नहीं होगा, I won't be able to do it. And I can say that for so many things, but and I offer it to you because I don't know what to do with it. But not with the sense of disgrace or shame or wo bhi hai, so one can do that too. But yet it's a difficult, it's like you're solving a difficult question. If you don't know it, you try it, right? You try to solve it. But then you go to your professor, you go to your teacher, tuition teacher sometimes, and say कि नहीं आ रहा, right? Oh, yeah. So any last comments, questions, reflections before we end? The title of the passage was Offering the Wrong Movement. Offer the wrong movement. So we'll end the session? We'll
Yeah, if
end
there
it.
is no further reflection, yes, we can.
Okay, so just taking a last minute to just, I don't know, feel grateful for the words that, try and bring more and more light and clarity and purity in our beings. May all of us, want to work towards more clarity, more purity, so that at least, some of us can be light and spread that light around. So praying for the peace and wellness for everybody. May all beings be well and happy. And sharing the merit, like we share the prasad with everybody. Yeah, thank you so much.